SWEGTA!
Today we'll be exploring the ultimate bully iceberg, but before we get into it, I want to give a shout out to Reddit user Juan de Leixer for making this iceberg, and Nothi for providing some notes that I will occasionally defer to in this video. Anyway, with all that said, let's get into it. Jimmy Hopkins is James Cash. This is a somewhat commonly found theory in both the Bully and Manhunt communities. Because of some vague similarities in personality and appearance, some fans have speculated that James Earl Cash, the protagonist of Manhunt 1, is the adult version of Jimmy Hopkins. They share the first name, James, and some people think they do look a lot alike. I disagree with this. They both have very different facial features, they don't sound alike at all, and really the only commonality is that they're both named James. Beta version. The original idea for Bully was to have Jimmy Hopkins be more of an anti-hero and straight up cruel. The game's aesthetic was also way more cartoony, and a lot of the edgy ideas Rockstar had planned ended up being cut. We'll get more into this as we go along, but the general idea is that this game was gonna be far more violent and, well, kind of out there. Rumor has it Rockstar was initially aiming for an M rating. You could beat people up for money, female students had lingerie clothing variants, and so on. You know, normally when it comes to the media that I consume, like video games and movies, I prefer that they go all in and make something super edgy. But as far as Bully goes, I think sticking with a T rating was the right approach. The Asylum. Happy Volt's Asylum, located in blue skies, is by far one of the creepiest locations Rockstar has ever put into any of their games. Patients can never be seen in free roam, but you can hear them wailing in pain and terror when exploring the asylum's interior. The orderlies are downright sadistic. There's a creepy PA voice that was also used in the asylum in Manhunt 2, and the patients are part of a cult. By the way, I did a video on that, link down below. Piggsy and chainsaw sounds. I decided to consolidate these two items on the list since both of them cover the same fan theory. In the asylum, you can find a framed drawing of a pig labeled Piggy. This could be a nod to Piggsy, one of the antagonist characters in Manhunt. There's also a drawing of what appears to be a blood-stained rabbit, possibly another reference to a Manhunt character named White Rabbit. In the Blue Skies residential park, there's an old ramshackle house right next to the tattoo trailer. Standing near the house, you can hear what many believe to be chainsaw sounds and pig noises. Laughter can also sometimes be heard. Aside from that, I think the strangest detail about this house is how townsfolk and townies are drawn to it. They'll just flock right over, run into the house, and then disappear. I decided to sift through the game's files and find the audio emitting from this house, and the audio is called poor_emitter_04. Having a close listen to it, it sounds more like a combination of 3 stock sound effects. The way the audio is mixed gives me the impression that the laughter is coming from a TV, hence the cartoony sound effects that can occasionally be heard. As for the pig and chainsaw noises, I think it's supposed to sound like a person snoring while someone else inside the house is vacuuming. I decided to have a look around the other houses in the neighborhood, and I couldn't find much aside from one household hoarding a bunch of cats and dogs. And by the way, props to the audio team and level designers. Even the utility poles have sound effects, which I thought was kinda cool. Mr. Burton. Mr. Burton, the Academy's gym teacher, is, well, he's a massive creep. Not only does he get Jimmy to help him steal underwear from female students at the Academy, but he also got Zoe Taylor expelled after she complained about Burton hitting on her. Eventually, he does get what's coming to him when Jimmy and Zoe push a porta potty with Burton inside off a hill, covering him in chocolate, and by the end of the game, he does end up getting fired for what he did to Zoe. Well, canonically at least. He will still appear on campus on occasion and in gym class because of a developer oversight. Werewolf. Ever since the game got released in 2006, fans have debated the supposed existence of a werewolf. Howls can be heard in some parts of the map, though these are most likely dogs or coyotes, both of which are native to New England where Bulworth is located. The one spot where a lot of people have claimed to have encountered a werewolf is behind the scoreboard at the football field. I decided to wait an entire in-game day on the off chance anything happens, so I waited. And waited. And I waited. I then passed out, and upon waking up, a skeleton popped out. Nah, I'm just busting your balls. Nothing happened. Jimmy is bisexual.
This is just like one of those romance movies.
This is a bit of a highly debated topic in the Bully fandom. In Bully, there are 6 dudes you can kiss, 1 from each clique. Duncan, the townie, Trent, the bully, Vance, the greaser, Cornelius, the nerd, Kirby, the jock, and Gord, the prep. All you need to do this is to complete Art Class 1, unlocking the ability to exchange gifts for a kiss, and after that you'll need 100% respect with a clique in order for your intended gay boy target to be kissable. Just talk him up, hand over your bundle of store-bought Dianthus Caryophyllus, and then you'll be able to swap spit for a health bonus. But again, whether or not Jimmy really is bi canonically is highly debated amongst fans. I've seen some people say that you can beat up kids in the game, and that's not canonical, so just having the ability to do something doesn't mean that it's part of the character of Jimmy Hopkins. I would argue that there's a difference in the ability to do these two things. Beating up kids gets you in a lot of trouble. Kissing a dude in the game, however, gives you a reward. The game condemns one but encourages the other. It's also worth noting how and why this was added in the first place. Alright, hello, video editing SWEGTA here. So in this clip, I go on to talk about how a programmer suggested adding this ability in Bully, and I go on to make the case that they probably approached a lead behind the game, and the lead thought about this, considered does this fit the character of Jimmy Hopkins, landed on yes, and thus it was added. As it turns out, I was totally misremembering this. Actually what happened is that one of the main writers behind the game, right next to Dan Houser by the way, one of the main writers behind the game, pushed for this idea multiple times. This is one of the people who wrote the character of Jimmy Hopkins, so I feel like that's kind of definitive. I don't know, you tell me. I was actually gonna do a full-on video on this. I had a video script prepared and everything, but then I thought, I don't know how people would feel about that. I don't know. I think this will do for now, at least. Hobo's Abduction. After collecting all the transistors hidden across the map and completing all of Mr. Grant's fighting tutorials, you'll get this cutscene.
Take this!
Assuming that aliens are behind this, can you really call it an abduction if Mr. Grant is laughing during this? It seems to be something that he intended on happening. There is also a smidge of foreshadowing during Mr. Grant's introduction cutscene where you can see him looking up at the sky briefly. He was obviously working on a communicative tool with the intent of making contact with a man or a woman or something.
Hey, Jimmy. Hey, Petey.
Ah, Greeble Glork, good to see you. Aside from all this, it's a mystery that Rockstar has stayed very quiet on. Aliens beaming him up seems to be the most prevalent theory. Bully in the GTA universe. Bulworth Academy can be seen on one of the TV shows in GTA 4, I'm Rich. GTA has also been referenced in Bully. Inside the auto shop, you can find a couple cars from GTA, one being a Stallion and the other being a Regina. Both of them use textures from GTA Vice City, and the Regina even has a VC615 license plate, most likely a nod to Vice City. Jimmy is the son of James Cash. And here we go again. The arguments being made for this are pretty much the same as the last one. They look alike even though they actually don't. They sound alike even though they actually don't. They act alike even though they actually really don't. It's a weak theory and I don't buy it. Ghost Girl. I remember investigating this one like 10 years ago. Rumor has it that a female student at the academy died, possibly by drowning in the gym pool, which would explain why the faculty always keep it drained. And recently there has been some talk in the bully community about crying being heard coming from the girls' locker room despite it being empty. Some also believe the attic in the girls' dorm to be haunted by the spirit of this deceased student. And while I will admit that the attic is very eerie, at least to me it is, I am still highly skeptical of this. Nonetheless, I decided to, and you guessed it, spend an entire in-game day standing around waiting to see if anything would happen. Shout out to Mrs. Peabody for patrolling 18 hours straight without taking as much as a smoke break. After passing out, the only interesting thing that happened is that whoever found me took me to the infirmary instead of robbing me. Apparently this happens whenever you pass out indoors. I didn't realize this until now, so despite making videos about this game for 13 years, I'm still learning something new. Neat. Serial killer. This is another old school myth in the bully community. Students can sometimes be heard talking about fresh blood being found in the school basement, and during Chapter 1's transition cutscene, Jimmy makes the following comment.
So here I am at probably the worst school in the country, whose alumni are nothing but arms dealers, serial killers, and corporate lawyers. Real scum. And that old creep thinks he can tame me? We shall see, my friend. I only give people what they have coming to them.
We're gonna put this topic on hold for now, but we will occasionally dip back into it as we cover a few more points in level 4 and 5. The Pirate. One of the errands given to you by Pedro involves swimming to nearby the sunken pirate ship. And if you head over to the beach near the pirate ship, you'll find a pirate. This pirate is actually Vance Medici in his Halloween costume, and defeating him will earn you a pirate hat. Gary is the werewolf. So there's an unlockable werewolf mask in the game, and because of a scar that's on it, some fans believe that Gary Smith is the aforementioned werewolf. Gary Smith does have an eyebrow scar, sure, but the placement of it is very different from the one seen on the mask. I also think the whole facial scar thing is less of a connection intended by Rockstar for people to pick up on, and more of a commonly found trope in fiction. He's got a scar on his face, so you know he's bad, that kind of thing. And by the way, most people with facial scars get those from disease and accidents, not from being a violent sociopath. Bully 2. Oh boy, where do I begin? Okay, so Bully 2 almost happened on a couple occasions. In 2009, Sean Lee, the composer of Bully's soundtrack, made a comment in an interview about how he was gonna do the soundtrack for Bully 2 in the quote, not so distant future. Later in 2017, we saw a bunch of Bully 2 concept art being leaked. And then in late 2021, a former lead on Bully 2 confirmed the legitimacy of these concept art leaks. I interviewed this person, and interestingly enough, some innovations made during Bully 2's development ended up being repurposed for Red Dead Redemption 2. I've talked extensively about this, but I really think that following GTA 6, that would be a perfect occasion for Rockstar to make Bully 2. I mean, at that point, they've released the biggest video game ever made, so it kinda makes sense for them to focus at least briefly on a smaller title. And besides, they've already attempted it twice, so we know they want to do it. The Mermaid.
Jimmy's a little confused and sometimes violent.
By heading to the Freak Show tent in Billy Crane's Traveling Carnival, you can find the Mermaid from the depth of the sea. The Last Mermaid. The game provides zero explanation for any of this being fake, so yeah, I guess there's a mermaid in Bully. Some fans have claimed that you can, on rare occasions, find the mermaid at this sunken boat in the Blue Skies harbor. Now what's interesting about this fan theory is that the sunken boat seen in the mermaid tank is almost identical to the one in Blue Skies. But if I'm gonna be honest, what I find really interesting is look at how tiny this door is. Yeah, I know, most boats with an interior have small entrances, but come on. Look at how massive Jimmy looks in comparison. It's insane. No wonder this thing sank. New Coventry screams. New Coventry is one of the most crime-ridden areas of Bullworth.
The foot! Oh! You got the suspect.
Going to the alleyway where you fight Peanut, you can hear occasional screams and a baby crying. And post 6 p.m, you'll hear furniture being thrown, glass breaking, and even more screaming. For a while, some fans believe that the crying came from a child trapped inside a nearby car. It is disconcerting knowing that this happens every day in this location, but I guess the developers really wanted to hammer home that this is one of the worst parts of town. Unused missions. Bully had a ton of mission content that ended up being cut. Some of the missions that have been found by modders and data miners are 2_SS01, taking place near the Girl Storm, 2_10 at the beach in Old Bullworth Vale, 3_S09 by the motel in Bullworth Town, Rendezvous, one of the few missions with an actual name. This is an unused Lola mission that still exists in the game files and can be triggered via modding. It even has a fully voiced and animated cutscene consisting of Lola telling Jimmy to be on the lookout for her and Tad while they're on a date. 3_11. This one took place in Bullworth Town, very close to the last couple Rudy missions. The Paddle. This one began in the boys' dorm during Chapter 4. The objectives consisted of Jimmy stealing Crabblesnitch's paddle and framing Damon. I did a Q&A video with Matt Bush, Pete's voice actor, and interestingly enough, he did manage to provide some interesting details about this mission, so here you go.
In the trailer for the game, there is a moment where Gary goes, spank me, or something like that.
Oh, young love is such a beautiful thing. Oh, spank me!
And I guess it didn't make the final edit. I went through my old emails, and I found the original shooting scripts of Bully. And I went through it, and I did find Gary's line, and it's from a mission called The Paddle, and it's basically Jimmy and Pete's hanging out in the dorm, trying to figure out a way to get back at the jocks. Gary comes in, he says something very Gary-like, how Jimmy and Pete may be dominating each other or something and spanking each other. And that gives Pete the idea that maybe to get back at the jocks, they could steal their paddle, the prized paddle.
The next mission we have is Off-Road Romance. This is another Chapter 4 mission, presumably taking place after Stronghold Assault. We then have a couple Chapter 7 missions. Yes, an entire chapter of this game ended up being cut. One of them took place near Jimmy's Beach Clubhouse, and the other one began, at least, at the cemetery. Cemetery. Speaking of the cemetery, this area is often overlooked by players as there's not much to do here besides getting some collectibles. Townies can often be seen wandering around, homeless people sometimes sleep there, and non-click students will occasionally cry near tombstones. And between 8 p.m. and 2 a.m., a preacher can also be heard giving a loud and impassioned sermon quoting the Book of Revelations.
So the Lord God said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, cursed are you above all the livestock and all the wild animals."
There were also plans on having some pretty creepy noises playing at night. A cemetery caretaker character was also intended to be in the game, most likely at this location. Ovnis? I don't know, it's a French term. Unidentified flying objects. The sky in Bully is somewhat of a mystery on its own. Something that has led to a lot of speculation amongst fans is the presence of weird triangular objects in the sky. Airplanes are to be expected, that makes sense. But there are also some very strange looking triangles that can most easily be seen late at night, especially during sunny and cloudy weather conditions. These triangles appear to be tied to the skybox, meaning that the more you try to get closer to them using free cam or no clip, the more they move away. So, alien spaceship or just a bug? You tell me. Aliens in the Asylum. Another piece of alien mythos revolves around this painting inside Happy Vault's Asylum. Due to the texture's low quality, many have been given the impression that this is some type of alien standing next to a scientist. In actuality, this is reused concept art of the biology teacher, Dr. Slaughter, standing next to Dr. Watts.
The chemistry teacher?
Yes! Very good, Jimmy. You get a beam cola. You can also gain access to a closed-off area in the asylum by breaking the doors leading to it. Make your way to the morgue and you'll find these x-rays of what I can only assume are patients with various deformities and injuries. And yeah, this is where the alien theory comes into play. One of them has a very long neck, and the other appears to have been scanned from the side, revealing a disfigured jaw and 2 eye sockets on top of each other. You know, one thing that I haven't heard anyone talk about is that Ted Spencer did bring up during a cutscene that he has an older brother without a chin who resides in a lunatic asylum, as he calls it. So who knows? Maybe this is him. For a while before we had access to no-clip and free-cam mods, quite a few people made claims about there being a crashed alien spaceship on top of the asylum. So, here you go, let me ruin that for you as well. The Secret of Johnny Vincent. This one is kind of vague, so I'll let Nothi explain this one and then I'll give my thoughts. I couldn't find anything directly about this, but I have found 2 that might go with this. The first one is that there is unused dialogue in the game files that there might have been a mission where Johnny cheats on Lola. The second thing that might go with this is the secret dialogue that you can get during the mission Bait if Johnny knocks out Gord. Okay, so I assume the unused dialogue Nothi mentioned here was taken from Complete Mayhem and not a cut mission. At some point in Complete Mayhem, Jimmy would have walked in on Johnny making out or being intimate with a female student other than Lola, causing him a great deal of embarrassment. As for the secret dialogue, yes, that is correct. Normally by the end of the mission, Johnny just tells you to scram, but you can trigger a way happier and friendlier sounding Johnny line by letting Johnny be the one who knocks out Gord.
Thanks, Jimmy. You're a good kid, you know? Here's your money. See you around.
Sure thing, Johnny.
Crying baby noise. Getting back to New Coventry, you can normally hear children playing and shouting from inside one of the apartment complexes. But just like the other piece of audio we heard, this one changes at 6 p.m. After that, you can hear a baby crying. And of course, it's New Coventry, so nobody cares or does anything. Haunted paper mill. One of the workers in Blue Skies, McInnes, will often talk about strange noises and ghostly sightings occurring at the paper mill.
You hear about the paper mill? I heard it's got some strange stuff going on, like the graveyard, but worse. You believe in supernatural stuff? I heard the paper mill might be like a portal or something, you know?
Bullworth doesn't actually have a paper mill, but McInnes' model is named TO_millworker, so it is possible that a haunted paper mill was planned at some point in development. There were also plans for a sawmill to be in the game, and there even still exists a smoke particle effect that the developers forgot to remove. It should be noted that McInnes is a highly superstitious and paranoid person, so he's not exactly the most reliable source of information. Jimmy's mom is Trevor's mom. Okay, this one is just absurd. I guess because of some slight similarities in appearance, some fans believe that they are the same character. I mean, they have a different nose, different eyes, different jaw, different mouth, different voice. The list goes on. They are very different, but they do dress and apply makeup in similar ways, so they must be the same person. Because as we know, out of the 8 billion people on this planet, no two people look alike. I think the reason for them looking kind of alike is because Rockstar's writing team has like this kind of stereotypical bad mother look in their mind when writing these types of characters. The Janitor. Mr. Luntz is one of the most cruel and creepy characters in any game by Rockstar. As a figure of authority, he takes great pleasure in busting students when they're caught red-handed, and he also urges Crabblesnitch to lean way more into corporal punishment. Many believe him to not only be responsible for the blood found in the school basement, but also that he is the rumored serial killer of Bullworth. One of the townsfolk, Miss Rushinsky, even seems aware of Luntz's criminal past.
Do you know a janitor at Bullworth supposedly has a record?
You really don't have any idea, do you?
Yes, Dr. Crabblesnitch. Of course, Dr. Crabblesnitch. Good thing you don't know what I'm up to, Dr. Crabblesnitch.
You can also find some concept art of Mr. Luntz at the cinema in Old Bullworth Vale. If you look at the movie posters, you'll see one called Creepy Watcher, and there's a close-up of some concept art of Mr. Luntz.
Why is it green?
Human heads in biology class. The biology classroom is seldom ever explored, and it took fans years before finding a couple severed heads kept in jars. It remains unknown how Dr. Slaughter came in possession of these, or even the legality of it. What's most disturbing about this is that both of them look like teenage boys, meaning that they could quite possibly be former students from the academy. This is also tied into the conspiracy theory surrounding Mr. Luntz possibly being a killer. Jimmy died in the last mission. I did cover this in a recent video of mine, so if you want to have a deeper look, then I'd suggest checking out that video. But the gist of this fan theory is that Jimmy could not have realistically survived the fall at the end of the game, so anything that happens after that is actually taking place inside Jimmy's mind while he's in purgatory. The way that everything quickly wraps up and sorts itself out has also been used as evidence for this, though if I'm gonna be honest, I think it more has to do with the game's writing and development being rushed. But again, I did a way more in-depth video on this, so if you want to check that out, I'll leave a link down below. Pedestrians alluding to Starkweather. Starkweather is the main antagonist of Manhunt, a has-been film director who spends his time making snuff films. Characters in Bully mentioning Starkweather has often been cited as a connection between Bully and Manhunt. Now this one is really interesting to me because I could have sworn that years and years ago I overheard one of the townsfolk mentioning Starkweather. The memory was lodged in my head for like 15 years, and of course I thought Alan Smith was the one who said it. I know it sounds crazy, but I went through a ton of townspeople audio files, and I could not find one instance of Starkweather being mentioned. I didn't listen to every single line in the entire game because that would take forever, but I did look into all of the conversational snippets. Not once is this man's name mentioned. This is probably the Mandela effect. Does that make it creepier? I kinda feel like it does. Do you have any memory of this? If so, let me know in the comments below. Jimmy's body in GTA 4. Man, this one takes me back. Okay, so back when GTA 4 was released in 2008, a few channels on YouTube started posting videos claiming to have found Jimmy Hopkins wandering around Liberty City. The terrible video quality didn't exactly help in discerning the authenticity of this claim, but regardless, it did surprise a lot of viewers how a bald-headed man wearing a blue vest was present in the game. Eventually, people found some higher quality footage of this character and realized that he's black. So, you know, that's a pretty big contradiction right there. The blue vest might be a subtle nod to Bully, though I am leaning way more towards it being coincidental. Pete was Gary's spy. This is a topic that I intend on making a video on, but for the time being, let's give this one a quick overview. This fan theory makes the claim that Pete was actually an informant for Gary throughout the game, which would explain why he suddenly appears out of nowhere during the Johnny Vincent boss fight. There's also a Chapter 1 cutscene where you get this exchange.
So that's a good idea, right?
Yeah, okay, alright, sure, I'll do it.
The theory also makes the case that Pete was never exclusively on Jimmy's side, because by playing both ends, he would be on the side of whoever ended up winning. If Gary wins, then Pete will be given a position of power. If Jimmy wins, likewise. The main problem that I see with this is that there's no reason at all for Gary to give Pete anything, and there's especially no reason for Pete to trust anything Gary says. The dude made fun of his sexuality, repeatedly questioned his manhood, kicked him in the balls, and so on. Like, why would you trust anything this guy says? But again, I plan on making a video diving deeper into this topic, so if you guys have any pertinent details you want to see me cover in that video, let me know. Davis White's Träûma. Davis White is one of the bullies, and because of some dialogue where he mentions having an abusive cousin, the community has started believing that this is the cause for him being a bully.
It was my cousin's fault I turned out like this. If you hadn't made me eat all those June bugs, maybe I'd be normal.
Rockstar did give almost all the characters in the game, even non-mission ones, a surprisingly large degree of personalities. And we do know that most of the bullies are insecure about something. Russell can't handle being called dumb, Troy is deeply closeted, etc, etc. Jimmy's mother never came back. Did Jimmy's mother ever pick him up from the academy? There are a couple things people bring up that supposedly indicate that she never did. Number one, Jimmy's mom almost hates him. I say almost because, if we're gonna be fair, she didn't get pissed at him until he started insulting her husband. Number two, Chapter 6 is called Endless Summer. I don't think this is why Rockstar named this chapter Endless Summer. I think it more has to do with the game's main story wrapping up, thus allowing you to explore freely and complete any side missions you may have missed. It should also be noted that Jimmy's mom does send him a couple things throughout the story. After unlocking the photo album, you get a card of Jimmy's mom and stepdad on vacation, and at the beginning of Chapter 3, Jimmy's mom sends him a Christmas sweater. Mihailovich is the killer. Now this is another subject that I plan on covering in a future video. Mihailovich is the owner of the shady motel near New Coventry. Police tape covers some entrances, and the windows have been damaged, implying that some type of violent struggle took place here. Mihailovich being the owner of the motel is confirmed by his character model name being TO_motel owner, his voice lines, and the fact that he bribes a cop outside of the motel during an errand. Dialogue also implies that he has a violent past, and has even dumped a body in the river. Despite the fact that something nightmarish has obviously taken place at his establishment, he seems far more concerned with how this will affect him financially. So, is Mihailovich the killer? Well, I think he may have killed someone during a deal gone wrong, but that's about it. I like how innocuous I made that sound, like, yeah, you guys know what that's like. The timeline of Bully and Manhunt. I think this one implies that Bully either takes place before or after the events of Manhunt. The problem that I have with this is that Bully doesn't have a set time period. I know a bunch of you are gonna bring up various props you found in the game, like video game cabinets or bulletin boards, but make no bones about it, you're all wrong. Die! Bully takes place in what's called an anachronism stew. You'll find some details that indicate the game taking place in the 90s, clothes that look more out of the 80s, various dialogue snippets that sound like out of the 2000s, and so on. The point of all this is to make you, the player, imagine whatever decade you want. It's to help players relate to the main character and the setting by reminding them of their own youth. Manhunt, on the other hand, takes place in November of 2003. Deleted deaths. In the beta version of the game, there were at least a couple ways Jimmy could die. One was by drowning, and the other was by falling into a vat of corrosive acid during the Edgar boss fight. Rockstar even went as far as to record voice lines for Edgar, taunting Jimmy as he drowns in acid. Both of these ended up being removed, and the only type of characters or NPCs that can die in Bully are rats, because nobody cares about them. Especially not my landlord. And there you go, the ultimate Bully Iceberg explained. Hopefully you enjoyed the iceberg and my commentary on it. If you did, give this video a like, it helps me out tremendously. This video took a lot of time and effort. I was actually gonna have it out within a couple days, but eventually I decided to give this video the cinematic treatment. Kinda adds to the viewing experience, doesn't it? So again, give this video a like, please. It helps me out and it brings new people into the community. Anyway, that's it for this video. You folks, as always, stay classy. Peace. I want to give a big thank you to my channel members for supporting what I do here on YouTube. Ben Struble, Jake Johnson, The Synth Scream Collective, Golden Stripes, Yippee, Cobham Iyoita, Dylan Newt, Riley Hu, Wardog1220, 8baller10, Zarpies, Chinese, Volts, Hanauta, BardyX Official, Double X2, and Andre. If there's anybody watching this who wants to have their name read at the end of my videos just like this, then please consider becoming a channel member. Thank you, and have an awesome day. Peace.